good, buddy? That's not good.
Sweet! I am so excited to upload this video. This is a special video because I get to showcase my photography, and more importantly, this is hands down the best abandoned coal mine I was ever in and probably will ever be in, because this is often referred to by myself and a few others as the Mount Everest of coal mine challenges. It is a beast. It is literally the holy grail of all coal mines, and I mean that. It really is the holy grail. This is something else. You're seeing this photo right now that says 1912 over top of it. That is a mule barn, the most beautiful mule barn ever. There will be so many videos on this mine because I have many thousands of photographs, so stay tuned. This was just one quick trip where we ran around snapping quick shots here and there. And I'll tell you what, this mine, round trip, is like 6+ miles. It is vicious. I'm not even kidding. It is vicious. Many miles you have to run around underground in these completely pristine tunnels and workings. So let's begin this tour where I'll be your guide. So you'll notice these 1940s chalk dates. These are from the mine foreman inspector, and this was to prove that he was in this particular part of the mine on that particular day doing his safety checks and making sure everything was nice and tidy and safe for the shift that was about to begin. Here you will see some nasty acid mine drainage, and this is at the bottom of a slope. You have to climb through this nastiness to get into the bottom of the slope itself. Here is the bottom of the slope. Look at this mine car that has disintegrated just down to the mine car wheels and axles. Utterly amazing. Notice these narrow gauge mine rail tracks that are suspended in the air and leading down into a mine pump room. And there would have once been a bridge here, but sadly it has disintegrated from the harsh conditions down here, such as the high humidity. We're at the bottom of the slope. However, it's not really the bottom of the slope. About 2/3 of this slope are now flooded, unfortunately, due to the natural aquifer rise due to the pumps being turned off. This slope predates the American Civil War. To the left of this photo was once a minecart buzzer, and he would communicate with the hoist way up top on the slope. To the right is a check tag board, and I believe that was for counting coal cars, taking tags off or something to that degree. This is something else. This gentleman here at this workstation where the buzzer was etched his name, Ritzy, and that was an electrical buzzer, by the way. So there were many levels to this mine, and this was Ritzy's level, his workstation. He would throw a switch off of the main slope going up or coming down, however you want to look at it, and the coal cars would make a 90-degree turn into this siding. He would thus direct traffic into that particular part of the mine as needed. This is an interesting spot because you'll notice these two shiv wheels to the left of that metal air door. I don't know what's going on there because they literally look like two shiv wheels to a vertical haulage shaft. Weird. So this is what one of the electrical buzzers would have looked like. And think of it as like a telegraph. Instead of long conversations like a telegraph, however, this would just give short signals. One would be like, hey, send coal cars up the slope, or two would be send coal cars down the slope. And they were communicating with the hoist engineer up top of the slope. So the hoist engineer would hear beep, and he would know, hey, gotta send the hoist wire rope up to pull the coal cars up. And he would hear beep beep, and then he would know to send the coal cars down the slope. So here's where one of those sidings are. To the right, there was the siding. To the left was the main part of the slope. Here, we're looking back up the main part of the slope, and we're going way up. This is a big one. This is one of the biggest slopes I was ever in. I would put it easily at 3/4 of a mile going up. As we were traveling up the slope, I noticed all this rainbowing in bit of water that was atop the clay-like bottom, and it dawned on me that this was most likely motor oil or grease from the coal miners themselves when they were lubricating parts of the coal mine cars. And it was beautiful. Not good for the environment, but very cool to look at. Look at this mushroom. Whoa. Such a photogenic mushroom. Look at that thing. Wow. Mother Nature's amazing. No light down here at all. These were imprints from the coal miners themselves, from their muck boots. I kid you not. Continuing up the slope, look at how photogenic that is. Nearly mint too. Just a little bit of collapse off to the right, not much though. Off of the slope and a working with a backdrop of anthracite coal in the background there, this is a desk, a wooden desk. And I'm pretty sure that I own that same exact style desk. Who knows, maybe it was even the mine foreman's desk, but now it's unfortunately rotting underground for eternity. Here's an intact electric motor that powered a conveyor, and all throughout this mine it had intact electrical motors. Some vintage World War II era, maybe 1950s era, Wrigley's spearmint gum. Look at how beautiful this photo is. Notice the knob and tube wiring, the top left portion of the photo. Just remarkable. This slope is completely intact nearly. Here's a reinforced part of the slope with concrete overhead where they were worried about the potential for collapse. And this had a lot of concrete reinforcement throughout this mine. Same angle, just different lighting, showing this remarkable concrete. And this concrete looks like it was poured yesterday, a true testament to how they did it back in the day. In this photograph, I'm looking down the slope from where we just came, just to take in the scenery. And look at that rail. Again, the knob and tube wiring is completely intact on the right-hand top portion of the photographs. Wow. Truly speechless. I love this mine. Headed back up the slope now. You can notice a little bit of roof collapse on the rail. The knob and tube wiring has come down somewhat, but it's still intact. I felt as though I should spice up these photos a little bit because they were just kind of boring and gray. So I just added some color to it, and look how good that looks. Check out this weird mold. Some sort of fungus or mold growing off of that rail tie. Unbelievable. This is cool. This is an empty barrel of Union Carbide, and this would have had raw carbide in it for the miners to light their carbide lamps. About 1930s, maybe even 1920s vintage. It's hard to tell from this photograph, but that is a game of tic-tac-toe. It's right off of the slope at an air door. So someone and their buddy were bored, maybe taking a break, and they were playing tic-tac-toe underground. That is so amazing to see. Back at the main slope, looking down to the far left was where the tic-tac-toe game was going on. To the right, there would have once been track and that went to a different level. Looking back up the slope, look on the roof. You can see fossils, lots of tree fossils. And also here is where there was a switch track in the main slope itself. Making our hike up this gigantic slope, just loving every moment of it. This mine is about 6 miles round trip. Look at how big this portion of the slope is. Look at how high that roof is. Rail is still intact, and the electrical wiring is still intact to the left also. The colors down here were magnificent. Utterly magnificent. That photo speaks for itself. Unbelievable. Love it. Headed up the slope, unfortunately, there's a massive cave-in. You have to go slightly to the right there, and you have to be very careful in order to not cause further collapse. And this is one of the unfortunate realities of exploring anthracite mines and why you should stay out and stay alive. Before you go through that collapse, however, the slope has one of those switch tracks where it goes to another level, and if you go down that, you will see this hospital. This is one of 2 mine hospitals. Look at this thing. It's like a house underground. It's absolutely magnificent. And I go into the hospital and I see this beauty. And I'm like, oh my God, it looks like my wife. And my friend was like, whoa, it does look like your wife. Wow. Very beautiful. But again, it's only because it looks just like my wife. I don't know what they used to put that up because it's still hanging strong. Look at this sign. It says "This Way Out, Man Way." And it's a porcelain sign that was made in Pittsburgh, believe it or not. So I had my friend hang outside of the hospital while I was inside and said, shine your light in. I want to take this photo. Look at how wild that looks. Amazing. Now this was the mine hospital phone that was inside of a box, and it was like one of those old Edison type phones. Can you imagine the crazy calls that came over that thing with mine accidents, unfortunately? That thing can only talk. This is the view of the hospital when you first notice it. And tell me that does not look like an underground building of some sort. So I just had my friend shine his light again through the outside windows, and I was just speechless in there. I could feel the heavy energy. Can you imagine the horror that this hospital would have witnessed way back during its heyday? The amount of death. On the outside portion of the windows, there was these decals from the Red Cross, 1947 and 1948 respectively, in totally mint. On the other side of the hospital, in its window, it had a 1947 decal also. Immediately past the hospital, there was this concrete reinforced mega structure, that's the best way I could put it, with steel I-beams. And these are taken weight and are completely bowed out. Look at that. Those steel I-beams should be straight, and they're not. And this was going towards a 2-compartment haulage shaft. Unfortunately, it was completely caved in. Here are 2 steel coal mine cars, completely made of metal. So these would have been going outside into the breaker, but now they're forever entombed. Here's another electric motor of some sort, and it had a brass tag on it showing the colliery name, which is pretty cool. Here's one of the coal cars, and on the outside of it you can see it was painted 208. Look at those chains still attached to the coal mine car, forever idled. How sad and unfortunate. Here is a massive collapse that occurred right near the coal mine car, and again this was heading towards a vertical haulage shaft. A coal miner etched 1939 on one of the concrete walls near this coal mine car. Amazing. Frozen in time, April 8, 1942, JPS. Also a date of 1940. This is something else. Look at this Native American head. August 1942, JS. Wow. October 16, 1938, C. Ross with a mule. There's also March 12, 1957. Here's a piece of rock with wire rope wear, where the wire rope from the hoist actually wore into the rock, and it seems to have fallen from the roof to the floor. Climbing up the slope and climbing and climbing and climbing, and we're heading to something very special very shortly, trust me. How spectacular is this? I was going up the slope, I look off on the right hand portion of the wall, and I saw these tags, all number 308 from a coal miner who placed them and never came back. These were for coal mine cars in order to get paid. on one of these different levels off of the slope, I noticed these crashed down timbers, and the one kind of looked like a sweet potato. That's why I grabbed a photo of it. Tell me it doesn't look like a sweet potato. Check out these old school barrels that were made of wood. Wow, I don't know what's leaching out of them. Something strange. Very neat though. This gate in the foreground is very similar to vertical haulage shaft gates, so you didn't fall down and get hurt. And there was actually a vertical manway, if you will, that went to water. However, I'll share that in future videos because that's very interesting in itself. Still climbing up that slope. Off to the right, look at all that beautiful acid mine drainage. That was coming down from an old school borehole. Look at that! Look at that hoist rope for hoisting coal cars up and down the slope. It's still in the rail itself. And believe it or not, it is wound around a hoist. And we're going to see that hoist real soon. This is a cool filter that I added to this photo. And just makes the rail look cooler. Look at that rail tie that has completely rotted out and left that indentation. It's madness. And there is more mine car hoist cable. Here's another junction of rail tracks splitting off of the main slope itself. And you can see how bleak the views can be down here, and that's why I've added some of these colorful photo filters. Just adds a little bit of artistic swag to it. Here is a photo with no filter whatsoever. And again, we're heading up the slope. This is off of the slope, heading down a siding towards the left-hand portion. And look at that concrete! Again, looks like it was poured yesterday. And this guy etched his last name here, and a first name, Romanco. This is backfill with clay and red bricks. I believe this was a vertical air shaft. So they pumped this down from the surface, and it was kind of creepy being on the other side of that from within. Very similar to like being on the moon in a sense. Felt very alien. Look at that concrete. It looks mint, and it's doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect that slope. Here are some timbers that have completely rotted out and come crashing down. In the distance, there's some rock fall that you have to traverse, unfortunately. This is the opposite side of that collapse. You can see rail and the voidage where the slope continues going upward. One must assume that this is how that slope would have looked when it was in operation. It's just pristine. This portion was sketchy, because there's a gangway that cuts across underneath this, and this would have once been lined with wood, so you didn't fall down until that underneath gangway, and it has since rotted, so it was voidage underneath, and you had to walk on that rail and not fall down. It's only about a 10-12 foot drop still. Look at this vintage Comfo cap, and it's completely mint. I just looked these up online, and they are going with bids well over $400 currently. Can you imagine that? Nearing the top of the slope, and look at this behemoth, and it is huge. It's the biggest hoist I ever saw. It's a Flory hoist. So I took a ton of photos. I hope you enjoy. Various angles, different lighting, different filters. I added many for your enjoyment. So sit back and take in the scenery. This was just for hoisting coal cars up and down the mine and onto a shaft, which would then go up and out of the shaft and ultimately to the breaker itself for processing. There would be an operator sitting to the right-hand portion of the hoist itself in this particular photograph. The slope did continue to the outside. Notice the mine rail in the foreground. However, there was a really bad collapse that cut off access to the surface, and that occurred during operation of this mine because you'll see in a little bit there's mine inspection dates from the 1940s on that collapse. So I don't know what the deal was, but it used to go to the outside, the slope that is, but it no longer did once that collapse occurred. To the left side of the photograph, you'll see an electric motor, and that's completely intact. That would fire up today if you gave it power. I would wager a bet. And that powered the hoist itself. Look at the size of that gear on the right hand portion of the photograph. I was about 3/4 of the height of that gear. I did not come anywhere near the top of that thing. Amazing. This thing is totally mint. This thing was still greased and lubricated and ready to go. Still had all the power lines hooked up to it. It just needed some juice and it would turn over, I would guarantee. This cylindrical contraption was called the hoist indicator, and notice that it has 2 arrows on it, and it would show the hoist engineer where he was letting out the wire rope and where that wire rope was in regards to the mine. In a sense, they zeroed it because he couldn't see where he was letting out that wire rope, but he would know based on those arrows where the coal mine cars would be. Look at those 3 brass spoons where the hoist engineer would engage the clutch, the brake, etc. Amazing. Here's a sign that sits over the hoist itself, and it says, "Safety is your best bet." So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Here's another angle of the hoist. To the right is the electric motor that powered the hoist. To the far left is the hoist indicator. Look at that. Look at how big that is. There's 2 center blocks on the lower center portion of the photograph. Gives you an idea for scale. I took a ton of photos, I'm not gonna lie, and I couldn't decide what ones to share and what ones not to, so I'm just gonna include a lot of them. I'll let you take in the scenery. Hope you enjoy. This is exactly the spot where the hoist engineer would have sat. Look at that sign to the top right, reminding him that safety is the best bet. Someone was trolling him. This was a tad bit peculiar. Seems that this hoist was locked out and tagged out. Not 100% certain, but it seems though that this hoist may have been deadlined. Look at that photo. That is just perfection. Utter beauty. Complete American industrial historical perfection. It's really a shame this is not sitting in a museum or something to that degree. We'll just sit down here forever, fortunately. People have come up to me over the years and asked, "Why do you go underground? Why would you want to do that? What you're seeing on the screen is the reason why. I have an obligation to preserve my ancestors' past. And so many people are saying to me, why are you showing these videos and photos of these underground mines? You're going to destroy the hobby, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think the world should see these particular sites because they're forever forgotten and entombed, and I'm bringing them into the light of day. In my opinion, there should have been more preservation of these historical sites, and these were historical sites. Here was a transformer, I assume, that serviced the Hoist. It says danger, high voltage. I don't think we have to worry about the high voltage anymore, as the mine has not had power probably since about 1960. Look at that shiv wheel. Here's a frog, and that was part of the rail on the actual slope itself for intersecting rail sections. I'm looking up the slope. To my right is the Hoist, and back in the day this would have went to the outside. However, there was a catastrophic collapse, and it no longer went outside even when this was in operation. Inside of this wooden contraption there was a horizontal shiv wheel, and that led wire rope around it from the Hoist, and it sent coal cars down a siding and ultimately to a vertical haulage shaft which drew coal mine cars up and out of the mine itself and to the breaker for processing. Cast off to the side of the slope itself, there was a much smaller wire rope guide that would have once wound wire rope around it. Pretty cool. Here's a catastrophic collapse atop the slope, and I see chalk dates from the mine foreman from 1949. That tells me that this collapse occurred when this mine was in operation, and they just said, whatever. They just let it be. Headed back down the slope, and we're going to check out some really cool sites. This is going to be amazing, trust me. We're going to have a lot of future videos on this portion of the mine where we're ultimately going, because it is epic. Look at this massive concrete archway. The slope is atop that, believe it or not. We're under the slope at this point. But look at that. Remarkable. Here's another massive cave-in. There's so many cave-ins off of the slope, unfortunately. Off of the slope to the left-hand portion, look at this acid mine drainage. We've hit a gangway that goes underneath it. Look at this gob wall. Wow. Totally photogenic, that's for sure. In future videos, I'm going to outline this gangway and how horrifying it actually is. It does not look terrifying, but trust me, this is scary because this was one big squeeze. Look, there's rail that they were scrapping, and they were so spooked by what happened in here that they abandoned the scrapping operation. And I'll explain why. Oh look, we've now found the second hospital, and this hospital is epic! We're going to take a look inside here in a second. That's a cast iron door, and those hospital letters were hand forged by the Colliery blacksmith. I did my research on this mine, and trust me, that is 100% true. In the background, this goes immediately to the vertical haulage shaft. Right there, look, there's a coal mine car, and right behind that there is backfill. There's a clay backfill, and we're at the bottom of a vertical 2-compartment haulage shaft. How crazy is that? We're at the base of the shaft. So there's a steel coal mine car waiting to be hoisted up and out of the vertical haulage shaft. Fortunately, it will never happen. Now we have entered the hospital. Look at this porcelain sink. No, that is not blood, it's just iron or something. I don't know what it is, but it's terrifying. There's my flame safety lamp in the photograph. Look to the left of the flame lamp. That is a hospital stretcher. That's a wooden stretcher that would have once had patients on it. Coal miner patience. Oh my God. Top left portion of the photo, you'll see a little washing basin bowl or whatever. There's the sink too. Unbelievable. Just added some photo filters. Hope you enjoy. So here is an intersection of tunnels and rail. To the left is the hospital and the shaft. To the right is a special surprise. Look at that! A whole trip of vintage wooden coal mine cars. Wow! And we're gonna have more videos on this in the future. Trust me, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg in this video. I assure you. I have many thousands of photos. Wow! A whole trip of coal mine cars still hanging out on the rail itself. Unbelievable. I had my friend go ahead of me and shine his light down, looking back at me. And look at this scene. Look at that beautiful concrete wall on the track. Amazing. This is called the shaft reserve. They didn't mine the coal around the shaft so it would stay structurally sound, and it held. This was a cool setup. They mounted their overhead trolley wires on sections of mine rail that acted as reinforcement. This is a teaser photo, because trust me, it becomes epic once we go further down this tunnel. So stay tuned for future uploads. Check out this pipe that goes vertical. It says EJ. And guess what that was? That went right to the breaker itself, and that fed steam power down into the mine itself to power tools, etc. And that again went right to the breaker, and it was fueled via the breaker powerhouse. Unbelievable. Came up on this wall off of a gangway, and there was all types of miners graffiti from 1930. Whoa! Here we go! Look at that! What is that? Oh my God! It's a General Electric mine locomotive! Whoa! And there's two sections of rail, and it's just forever parked off of one section of rail. Unimaginable! Wait! What's that behind that General Electric mine locomotive? Is it another electric mine locomotive from General Electric? Why, yes it is. Not one, but two. Wow. For real though, look at these things. They're super low, completely sleek in design, and they're from the 1920s, early 1920s. They are so gorgeous. I have never seen anything like this in an abandoned anthracite coal mine before, up until this moment. I was nearly moved till tears. Look at those. Two General Electric mine locomotives. Forever trapped down here. And they were waiting for me to find them, film them, and share them to the world. No one else has seen this except myself, because I am the king of coal. I am truly the king of coal. I'm just kidding. Anyway, look at that wood barrel just chilling on the tracks. There's the intersection of two rails meeting. So just beyond the electric mine locomotives, we're like, what's this? Whoa! And this is exactly how it looked with the lighting of our flashlights. Didn't seem like too much, just another tunnel. And we were like, what is this marquee over the tunnel? Uh-oh, this looks like it might be something special. 1912? What is this? What? We were just eagerly anticipating what awaited us. And what waited us was the most intact mule barn I have ever seen in my entire 19 plus year career of exploring abandoned anthracite coal mines. Look at that marquee. 1912. Whoa! the year that the Titanic set sail, 2 years before World War I. So we go up the rail into this abyss, and it is a mule barn. Whoa! In addition to it being a mule barn, once it was abandoned as a mule barn, probably around 1923, 1924, when those electric mine motors were put into use, they no longer needed the animal mules, this became abandoned. And all these miners left their graffiti from their carbide lamps. The carbide lamps give off an exhaust, and you can write a graffiti-like message behind. And that's what they did. Look at this. Sonny Dick Hudson, Chick Lane, Joey Automobile. It was wild. There was so much stuff, I have to admit, from showing this video. Nasty scenes of nudity and nasty comments. And it was all done from the coal miners. I was loving every moment of it. I'm like, wow, they were trolls. Even in the 20s and 30s and 40s, just like myself. Actual trolls. Look at that. 6'2", 23. This guy left his name. Amazing. Jack. Look at that. Jerry Emmerich, 9/16/44. Babe, 7/24/44. Joe Tibble. And there's Ritzy again. Ritzy from the beginning of the video. Alex Pesta, 8/11/12/13 of 1947. These guys were grabbing rocks and etching that, most likely. Stanley Fritz, 6/14/1948. This is amazing. They knew someone like myself would eventually find this mine, post-abandonment, and come down here and share this to the world. Bozo City, June 2/23. Chic. Off to the right-hand side. Look, there's the mule stables. And there's rail track. And why was there rail track in the mule barn? Well, so they can roll coal mine cars up to the mule stables themselves and drop off hay and also shovel poop into the coal mine cars. I didn't get a good photograph of this, but look at that gentleman. The artwork that someone made of that gentleman. Look at that. That was all done via a carbide lamp and the exhaust. That guy was a true artist. Amazing. So right here it says Frank Golinsky worked here, 1937. Leo Seaman. Wow. There's Joe Otto again. So much graffiti down here. I loved all of it. Look at that little cartoon character. 1937, I'm seeing. Top center. Butch the Pusher. Huh. What a cool nickname. Wonder how he got that. That guy is holding a knife. And then it looks like there's Popeye to the left of the guy holding the knife. Interesting. I like how it says, I'm wild about automobiles. So neat. So cool. Right in one of the mule stables, I like the overhead geology of the roof, so I grabbed this shot. I'm at the end of the mule stable. To the left is the mule stables themselves. I'm standing in the rail bed, looking towards where I came in from. These workers all left their names behind. Roger Hines. Hudson Super 6, that's the type of car. It's pretty cool. Moran, that's the last name. This is not fake. That is hay. Hay for the mules. In the mule barn still. I don't know how. Because they got rid of the mules in the early 20s. Look at that. That's hay. Still in the hay trough. I don't know how, but it's there. Unbelievable. Carbide graffiti showing the American flag when it had 48 stars still, which is pretty interesting. Vintage. In the mule barn, there was this pair of miner's shoes. I'm speechless. This was a water trough or a hay trough, I'm not sure what one, for the mules. I've never seen so much infrastructure in an abandoned coal mine before. To the right is the trough for the mules, and there's these barred windows. So now we're heading back out of the Mule Barn, and there's just graffiti everywhere. Everyone came down here to drop their graffiti. Look at it all. And again, I wish I could show some of it, but it is way too raunchy, even for 2023. I just love that there were trolls. And there's where the hay troughs were, with hay still in them. It was just such an ornate coal mine. Look at that hay! What? And there's Anthony DeMark. I wonder what happened to these gentlemen. I have to think of my grandfather and two great-grandfathers whenever I would explore these mines. You know, obviously they're long gone, unfortunately, but I hope they had good lives. God bless them. I pay attention to detail while underground, and this always pays off. Look at this. These were metal doors, and they had little holes in them. So I had my friend go on the other side of them and light them up with his flashlight. And it illuminated the feed that tells me that they had teapot oil wick lamps or even carbide lamps, and they put them on the other side of the store just like my friend was doing with his flashlight, and that would illuminate this text so the miners or laborers for the mule stable would always know where the feed door was. It's ingenious! This marquee, by the way, was done in plaster. I was looking to see if it was metal, and it is not. It's plaster or something in concrete. Oh, that is just beauty. I have to frame some of these photos because this is just utter perfection, if I may say. So again, the rail tracks going into the Mule Barn never hauled coal. It was just for hay and poop coming out. Here are some various scenes of the Mule Barn entrance, and I even added some different colors via filters, so hope you enjoy. Here's a couple teaser photos for a future video. What is this? Is that a minecart repair shop? Wow! What's this? An overhead crane that's holding up a minecart? No way. Trust me, there's tools, equipment, everything down here. We're gonna have so much fun with future videos on this particular mine. Standing at the bottom of the vertical haulage shaft, it's hard to make out, but there's compartment 1 and 2 with a clay backfill. Wait till you see the air side of this shaft. I wonder where this tunnel leads to with intact rail. I guess you'll just have to subscribe and wait and see. Be sure to like the video if you can. For real though, I'm gonna upload so many videos showcasing this mine because we have just literally touched the tip of the iceberg. I can't wait to upload these. I appreciate you watching my videos, and I thank you for your constant viewership and support.